Hey everyone, how you doing today? Thought I would do a general update, talk about a few things, talk about some future creations and ideas that you guys had that I did ask for on the last general update video, and then show you one new thing I started and show you the more completed version of what you're looking at right now. And this is yet an unnamed little starter base for the Imperial race and also for Excalibur's challenge. I did finish it up. I did show this on the last video. I wanted to spiff it up a little bit, basically try to make it look a little bit better. I replaced a few more blocks or concrete blocks with steel blocks so I could gain access to the textures I wanted. Worked on cleaning up the bottom and all little nooks and crannies all over the place. I did kind of restructure the block work on the back of it to give it a little bit better pattern than it had, a lot less repeating textures. Experimented with a couple different textures like these tiles to see if I could blend that in over like concrete blocks, which these are still over here. It's almost all concrete, but I would say there's probably about somewhere about 14 to 16 steel blocks in here. The only reason they're there is so I could use a different texture. I hate doing that, but I kind of want it to look nice too. So let's take a look inside here at its final specs, and I do plan on releasing this pretty soon. I don't know about today, but it is quite possible that I might release it tomorrow. So it's going to be pretty quick. But inside of here, there's not too much going on. I did dress it up a little bit in some areas. I replaced the removable farm block plot things with a little bit fancier stuff. Try to work out some of the textures. Tried some tile inside of the base too. Again, a lot of concrete in here, so I don't have access to a lot of the textures I would normally use for this race in places unless I replace them with a steel block. The medical bay is kind of stripped out. You do have your the O2 in here, but it has room for your standard med bay, your two larger medical equipment pieces, and two smaller medical equipment pieces get mounted to the wall here. You have extra room out on these back walls as well as these center areas here. And this is kind of, that's why I wanted to have nothing up on the ceiling. I could add little blocks or something to make it fancy on the ceiling, but I wanted that left open so you could fit 2x2 items, such as constructors, deconstructors, something like that in here. CPU-wise on here is, well, here, let's look at the main specs first. So in the end here, it has a 40-minute and 4-second build time. It's using no rares whatsoever, so just stone, copper, silicon, iron, and some wood. It does use, it looks like it uses an awful lot of carbon substrate, but it doesn't actually have a single carbon substrate block on the structure. Even some of the little bit of interior trim stuff is done in wood. So I guess regardless, you just need a lot of carbon substrate for any build, at least in Reforged Eden. So unlock level 7. Let's see, CPU. It's pretty light. It's tier 1. Using 64,000 CPU off the gates. Now, it does have just a single large constructor in here, and the reason why it's got a large and not an advanced is due to the resources needed for that. Since I want it to be like a starter base, I didn't want it to require any cobalt or anything else, and I would get that if I put in an advanced constructor here. So you can upgrade this constructor, which takes another 10,000 CPU, and you're still fine after upgrading it. So you can be 74,000 CPU. You can add like armor repair, all the medical equipment, and all that other stuff, and still remain tier 1 CPU. Now, if you do want to add more constructors and stuff in here, you will need to add like a basic CPU core somewhere. I didn't really designate a spot for that because it's just kind of open. You can kind of place things the way you want in here. So yeah, it's something that can be done. Now, below this little thing here is where I got all the main parts, and I did show this before too. This really hasn't changed. So we got Wi-Fi, solar capacitor, your main core, and a small generator. The O2 and fuel are right as you walk in the door, and it has a single 320 case storage bay, and a food processor and fridge. And of course, you can remove these blocks in these two areas, add in grow plots, and then you've got your grow lights kind of installed over here as well. Now, one thing I did different, and this is a question I got for you. I purposely I set up a control for this door, and then I removed that control, essentially having like a a control in red here. So if you notice, I've got this called core door, and which doesn't actually exist. And I did that so this thing doesn't manually open up and close every time you walk past it. I don't want it to. I just want it to. If you manually open it, that's cool, but I don't want this to be on any automation. Same thing for the ramp in the front. So basically, I made a fake control and then removed that control so these ramps don't respond to you when you walk by them. I always want this ramp to be down on the front as it's being used as a staircase, and this one I always want to be just kind of closed unless for some reason you want to open it up to look in there. So that's the way I did it, but maybe there's a better way, and it's basically by default when you place one of these kind of doors or the ramps, when you get near it, they'll trigger and they'll, retract or whatnot. And that's basically, I want to take that functionality off that, so it's just a manual piece that doesn't have any automatic triggering on it. And that's why I made a control and then broke it on purpose so it would just not keep opening. That's it'd be really annoying if it did. Every time you walk through here, it's like meh, meh. It'd be really annoying. I hate when that happens. And I got to watch that, even with some of my creations, too. If there's too many doors in one area, every time you move, it's just like something's opening and closing. It starts to drive you nuts after a while. So anyway, I will get this base out pretty soon. I think everything about it works. It's cheap. It's not sturdy. Well, I mean, it's not. It's obviously these solar panels are really low hit points, and it's just using concrete and steel blocks on the hull. The glass here isn't even armored glass. If I used armored glass, then it would need sathium. So it's a pretty flimsy base, but it's cheap. It's got 3 turrets on it. I did replace the turrets with miniguns instead of cannons. It has a single ammo box here in the middle too, and these hold 14K ammo, and it is airtight as well. Nope. Let me bring up this key here. I was concerned that it wouldn't be due to above the Wi-Fi here. Like, this is open to the ground down here, so this room here isn't airtight, and I was worried that it would lose its air from going up above the Wi-Fi into the cargo box, but I'm sorry, the ammo box. But the ammo box is actually airtight, so it works. So I just thought I'd show you that. Alright, so next thing, I just wanted to show you something new I started over here, and then talk about some future creations and ideas. So, this new thing, this was just kind of built on a whim. I just started placing blocks the other day, seeing what would happen, and this is obviously a CV, but this is kind of a start to some kind of new CV. It'll be more of a mid-level thing, and that has a little bit to do with comments too. That I'm really lacking a lot of like mid-level stuff, and it's kind of across the board. It's not just CVs, but often what I'll do is I'll build like a starter, and then I'll build some late game thing, and then I really don't have much in the middle of those two. And this is kind of what I wanted to do with this creation, is build something in the middle. And right now, I would say, although this has some guns on it, the idea I think I was going to go with this is to have it kind of a cargo transport vessel, as the front, the way this is set up, really does look a little bit more like a cargo ship to me than anything else. And also, how I was kind of planning this, I know it looks like a small, like almost like a starter CV right now, but I'm not done, obviously, but I was thinking about extending this to be about twice the length that it is now, and then add a second set of thruster pods here in the back, and then kind of having this kind of a long kind of carrier transport thing. It would have a lot of have a lot of landing space on the top, and it could also have a pretty good sized hangar inside, storage, stuff like that. Depending on where I go, I'll probably end up rebuilding these thruster pods too, because I really don't, with this creation, I'm starting to think that I really don't want these little thrusters on here. I'd rather have fewer, but the bigger ones. It's more efficient with CPU and the amount of power you get versus the amount of CPU you're using. And it's also a hardened steel hull on this. So think of like maybe a smaller, sleeker version of a Carapace C7. Something along the lines of that. Just not probably only a size class 3 or 4 creation though, so it's not going to be super gigantic or anything like that. I don't plan on having much fluff in it or anything like that either, so it's kind of a all-around vessel to get around with. That's the idea right now. So let's start. Let's talk about some ideas and things like that for future things going forward. None of these are like this big project yet. So a lot of things that were brought up now on smaller things. Space defense satellite. That was an idea. That's kind of cool. I don't have one of those. Never built one of those. I don't think it would be a very time-consuming project. I actually think that would be a pretty light project actually to do, depending on how elaborate you do it, of course. But you know, it probably would have no to little interior, and it's basically just figuring out how many turrets you want on it, and try to come up with like a nice way to put the turrets on there to get a 360-degree coverage around the thing. So that is one idea. Another idea would be to work on a couple new Helios modules. I haven't myself built a farm module or a combat Helios module. Other authors have though, like Alicia has built like a farm module and I think a combat module. I haven't done one myself though, and that could be kind of fun to do too. That wouldn't be a super huge project. It'd take a few hours, of course, but it wouldn't be like one of those like month-long project kind of things or anything like that. So that's something I'm definitely considering as well. Another thing that I'm really missing from like everything that I've made so far is a higher end SV high gravity miner. It's kind of needed or well wanted in late game, especially in Reforged Eden. There are materials or things that you can't get with the CV miner that you have to go down to planet side for. A lot of those planets often have high gravity, and could be nasty with nasty things flying around too. So kind of like a high-end SV miner that can deal with a lot of weight, lift a lot of cargo up in a high gravity environment and be able to defend itself. So that is something I want to build regardless if it was suggested or not. It was something on my mind for a while. So some other ideas too. Someone said luxury, build something luxury, and that really started ringing some bells for me because I really do want to build something luxury, believe it or not. The only like luxury creation I actually ever made was this guy over here, this MOV Intrepid, and this was based on Crazy Z's designs, and he built a creation called the Ibis MXZ. I wonder, do I have that here? Should have spawned that. I think I've got it in my list here. Let me. But anyway, it was we did this a couple years ago, and it was just kind of like building of the, doing our own take on the other author's style. So there it is, MXZ. There. So he ended up making this creation here, which is largely based around like a merc ship in the styling that I do, and then I ended up building this this one over here, which was based around some of the cosmetics and designs that Crazy Z did. So, but this was a huge fun build for me to do. It really was. I was just having so much fun with out of my element, doing things that I don't normally do. Brighter colors, like this white is like almost the highest intensity white you can have. And then wood grain inside the interior and stuff like that. So I was thinking about potentially doing something a little bit unique. Now, when a lot of people hear luxury, they instantly think it's like a bunch of role play value. It's not really going to be anything for me if I'm trying to progress through the game. It's just kind of like something I might, maybe want to walk around and admire or whatever, but not really a game functional thing. And I kind of want to break that trope a little bit too, because I was kind of looking at this, and basically there's nothing really different about this opposed to most other mercs that I've made or anything like that. It's just the styling of it. And there's no reason that if I did a CV, that in a luxury format like this, that it would have to just be full of fluff and not do anything else. So I was actually thinking about trying to really do things a little bit different, and it'll be out of my element, which I love to be. I like that inspiration of like getting into something that I haven't done before. Otherwise, it becomes kind of old. You know, you just kind of get sick of doing the same thing. So I was thinking about building a mid-level or higher level luxury VIP ship. So something around, I don't know, somewhere between size class, I don't know, three and I guess 3 and 6. A bit fast, tough, but luxury formatted, and it'll be for this faction and for VIPs. So this whole Imperial faction here, these guys are kind of like the bad guys, you know. They're highly based on like the Star Wars Imperial faction, you know, where they got the Death Star and they're blowing up planets, and you got your Darths running around trying to conquer the galaxy and rule everything. So that's kind of what this race is supposed to be about, at least what I, in my envision. Did I say that right? Probably not. But in my thinking, that's how I expect them to be. And this would be like a luxury VIP cruiser kind of ship that pretty sleek. I want it to be fast. I want it to be capable of getting into some fights, plus some general utility, but kind of in a luxury format, at least on the inside. So that's just cosmetics there. But it probably won't have a huge amount of fluff on it. Maybe if there's some extra room, maybe a little bit of fluff. You know, fancy crew room or something like that, but nothing spectacular. So, but you know, I was thinking about kind of going, maybe not exactly this theme, but something like it on the inside, where it's just kind of trying to be pretty. But that's all textures and, you know, your block work and stuff like that. It doesn't have to be non-functional because it's pretty. So that is a definite another idea. I might not start that one quite yet, though. I kind of wanted to try to tweak this thing out and maybe start on that other project tomorrow. Now, other things that were brought up too are space stations. Now, with space stations, I believe I made 5 total space stations. The smallest of those is the MCRN Skywatch, and that is a starter space station. And then beyond that, the next biggest one up is pretty old too. It probably would need some revisions before really capable anymore. And that is the Helix Orbital. That's like a size class 5 space station. And then the other ones I did were all size class 10 plus. And that is the Hephaestus Sentinel, which is the oldest, and the newest one is the Solaris. So all those are big high-end space stations. Now, a while back, quite a while back now, I did this high-speed video, and I started working on this potential Krill space station. But I got to this point, and I'm like, there's some things I didn't like about what I did, and then it scared me to death on how much texturing would be involved to try to make this thing, or to actually finish the project. Like, I might have had maybe about since I was doing this in high-speed videos, and I think I did it in 2 high-speed videos, each video on my side was about an hour and a half. So believe it or not, this is only like a 3-hour build right here. If I were to complete it, it's probably about a 120-hour build. So the texturing and doing the interior takes far longer than doing the halls. So I kind of look at this and I'm like, it's not really what I wanted for a Creel space station. And I still have this thing where I want to build a Creel space station. I also kind of want to do a Skaar space station. Those are things that I'm missing. Neither of those factions have any space stations whatsoever. So I was thinking about restarting a Creel space station, and I might start that with a build video tomorrow. And I got a completely different idea in mind. And a slight mix-up in how I've been doing Creel, too. I wanted to experiment with just an idea in my head. Creel, I always meant for them to be kind of like a biomechanical kind of thing. Like, I wanted them to look organic, but also mixed in with tech. Because, so, with those two things, when I start a new space station, which I'm actually kind of want it to at least initially take the form a little bit of almost like a squid or octopus, turned sideways. It's complicated. I'll have to explain it more on what I was thinking when I actually start it. But the idea would be, and it might use a lot of xenoblocks for the texturing too, is to like it'll have like 2 different styles in it. You might have one section that's painted like regular Creel that you might have seen before on other Creel creations. So that purple and the metal and whatever. But then it might like go from that and then simply go into like that organic looking stuff and then have flowy block work so it looks all organic, and then have like another chunk of like, biomechanical metal mix into the fold. And I wanted it to look very organic. Creel is supposed to look organic to start with. Now, some of the creations that I did kind of veered from that quite a bit, but I wanted them to be kind of more of an organic looking design. They're largely based around deep sea creatures. Was one of their primary things, that and like the Aliens movie. So I think I will start a Creel space station tomorrow on a build video, and we'll just see how it comes out. This is a high concept. I can't even say I'll run with it and like complete the project, but I want to see how it comes out and see how this weird squid-like octopus idea will actually work out in reality. Now you can envision something in your head, but then to translate that into the game, into blocks, especially with a lot of the curvy stuff I was thinking about on this one. We'll see. We'll see how it comes out. It's hard to say. It might work. It might not work. But I'm willing to try it because even if it doesn't work, it's a good learning experience. It's something a little bit different. Other suggestions were to build like something completely different and not try to conform to any of the existing factions. That's fun too. I'm just yeah. That is a solid thought. God, what other ideas? There are so many different ideas that I was kind of going over. Another is to build like a building, like a city building or something like that. And those are a lot of fun to do. And I do want to do a video on something like that at some point. I've built some buildings in the past. I had a lot of fun doing them. They actually didn't take very long because I didn't do interiors. You see, so as soon as you get into mass texturing big halls and then doing like when you got a lot of interior space, that's when things just take way longer. The hall work tends to go a lot faster on just about every larger build that I've done. Even the supremacy, actually placing the hall blocks was like maybe, I don't know, 5 to 10% of the total time put into the project, and it was a pretty big ship, and there's a lot of hull blocks to place, but it took longer to probably texture it all than it did to build the hull. And especially once you got into the interior, obviously it took way longer. Each room could take hours and hours and hours, and then more tweaking beyond that just to get it right, where you could have built the whole hall of another creation in that amount of time. So it's kind of what I've been looking at, and yeah, I love all these ideas. And it's like, well, where to begin? So I'm pretty motivated with a lot of different thoughts and things like that right now, and I do appreciate all the comments. Just to recap a couple things, I'm planning on releasing this pretty soon. What I mean pretty soon, probably not today, but quite possibly tomorrow. It shouldn't take that long. I don't need to take very many screenshots of it and stuff like that, and I can get it up on the Steam Workshop pretty quick. If you want to try out a new cheap little base, quick spawning base, I would like to do this other. I'll think about it more because I don't really have something in my head exactly on how I want the format to be, but like a VIP ship that's actually capable, but in a luxury format. I think that would be a neat idea. Be kind of fun to build a couple more Helios modules. There's a lot of creations. Even the Supremacy uses them. Even that little bitty Skaar Badger can dock a module, plus all the other creations that dock Helios modules and the Helios itself. There's just a lot of use for the modules. Anything that anybody that builds a creation that can support that module size, they'll work for. So more modules are just more options. And yeah, I wouldn't mind doing a farm one, and I wouldn't mind doing a combat one. I think that would be kind of fun to do as well. But I think the very next project, at least for video's sake, and we'll see how it goes, is probably a Creel space station. I know I shouldn't feel obligated to do that, but it's kind of like I want a Creel space station. I do. Creel is actually a faction in the game. They don't have a lot of POIs either. I made some. I think a couple other authors made a couple more. Well, I know they did. I looked at them before and played them. But if I came up with a really crazy looking space station that is, it could be used, if it's designed right, it could be used as a player base, and then it could be converted over to a POI. So it's kind of like it hits two things, and that's not a bad idea. And that's one bonus with Creel, because they are a faction in the game, that if I did do a structure that could be used as a POI, then I could throw it at for the Reforged Eden creators, as well as Elion, if they want to use it. So it'd have more use than just being a player base. And this one is not like it's horrible. It's just I keep on feeling like Creel was supposed to look a little bit different than this, where it's like if I skin this in this Imperial race, it would look all right. It wouldn't feel too out of place, even the way it is. It's kind of funky, but it's not super funky. This is a little bit funky back over here, though. I'll say that. I kind of liked what I was doing with the block work there, but yeah, we'll see. It's just, man, if I could finish this up in a couple hours, I would just do it. But man, this thing would be like a huge multi-week project to get this finished up. At least at the amount of time I've got to put into this right now. But anyway, that's about all I've got for today, and I'll shut up. I just wanted to talk about a lot of the suggestions out there for different things, and there was some more suggestions too, and I'll try to review that later. But basically, I was just trying to get some ideas and things on what to build next. I think it's time for a space station again too. I do like the space stations. There's so much you can do with a space station. I've got two factions without space stations. SV Minor, it would be in something else I would want to do, and I would like to finish up this thing and just to see how it comes out. It could be something again for this Imperial faction, something along the lines of a little bit smaller Carapace C7 kind of creation. I think it would be the best fit for what's going on here so far, at least. And you all have yourself a good day, and I will talk to you later.